Hey everybody, Mr. Morrell here, and we are going to be solving some single variable inequalities, which means we're trying to find x values that will imbalance our equations. I mean, we've spent all year trying to balance equations, and now we're like trying to find this imbalance. But thankfully the process is super duper similar, and it's really kind of nice. Now we're going to start with questions 1 and 2, which are very similar to questions you saw on homework assignment 5.2. So if you need a little extra reminder about how to do those, that's great. Go check out 5.2 and that would be fine. Okay, now for question 1, we're given the inequality x is greater than 3. And I just think it's easier for me if I go to a number line. So I'm going to start with 0 right here. Why the heck not? And we'll go 1, 2, 3, -1, -2, -3. You don't have to go by ones. You could have gone by threes if you wanted to. Anyway, so we got our number line here. And we want to show that x is greater than 3. So x is any number bigger than 3. So I'm going to go to the 3 and circle it. I am not going to color it in because I don't have an underline there. And all of the numbers bigger than 3 are going to be in that direction. Now, I need to write my interval. So I'm going to start by asking myself, okay, what's the smallest number that x could be? Well, the smallest number x can be according to the number line is the number 3. And it can't equal 3, so I'm going to use a parenthesis. The biggest number x could be is an infinity. And it can't equal infinity, because infinity is not actually a number, it's just this idea of huge numbers. Now let's go to number 2. Number 2 is telling us that x is between -infinity and -6, and it could equal the number -6. Well, just to give you some options, I'm going to put a 0 over here. You could have done something similar to like this in the last question. -2, -4, -6. -8, -10, -12. It's really up to you. What I'm looking for is that you have -6 circled. We color it in because we have a square bracket there telling us that x could equal -6. And we want to show all of the numbers smaller than that because x is between -infinity and -6. The way we would write that is that x is smaller than or equal to -6. All right, let's go ahead and go down to question 3. Now, with question 3, these look like equations that we have to solve. In fact, they're kind of box of doom type questions. And these will solve exactly like an equation with one exception that we'll talk about when I get to that exception in a little bit. So here I see that x is being subtracted by 7, so I want to do the opposite of that. And so the opposite of subtracting 7 is adding 7 to both sides. And when I do that, I get the answer that x is greater than or equal to 12. In other words, in order for this statement to be true, in order for x minus 7 to really be greater than or equal to 5, then x would have to be any number greater than or equal to 12 in order for that statement to end up being true. That answer that I just wrote there is the inequality answer, that x is greater than or equal to 12. The way we make that on the number line, and again, you just can get to the point where you just pick one line to be your 0 and one line to be your 12. I'm going to circle the number 12 and color it in because we said that x could be equal to 12 or anything bigger than that. The way I would write that interval is the smallest number x can be is the number 12 with a square bracket because it could equal 12. The biggest number x could be is infinity with a parenthesis because infinity is not really a number, it's just an idea. Now let's go down to question 5. On question 5, x is being multiplied by 9. So let's do the opposite of that. Let's divide by 9. Divide by 9. Divide by 9. And we would get the inequality answer that x is less than -6. I'm going to make a number line. Let's call it 0, -6. I circle the number -6. I need all of the numbers that are smaller than that, and I don't want to include that number. So I'll just put an arrow that way and not color it in. And the smallest number x could be is negative infinity, which is not a real number, so I'm not going to use a square bracket. The biggest number x could be is negative 6, and it can't equal negative 6, so I'm going to put a round parenthesis around it. So far, everything has been very similar to solving an equation with just different ways to represent our answers, except for this. In this example, x is being divided by negative 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by negative 3. We're doing the opposite stuff. Now, if we ever multiply or divide both sides by a negative number in an inequality, if I ever multiply or divide both sides by a negative, I need to switch the direction that the sign is facing. So my inequality answer would be x is less than or equal to negative 10 times negative 3 is a positive 30. In other words, if we're going to take any number and divide it by negative 3 and still get a number bigger than negative 10 or equal to it, then I need to pick any number that is smaller than or equal to 30. If I pick any number bigger than that, it's not going to work. Alright, let's make our number line. Here's 0. Here's 30. Why not? I'm going to put a circle there around 30. It could equal 30. I have that underline there, so I'm going to color this in. I need all of the numbers that are smaller than that. So for my interval, the smallest number x could be is negative infinity, because that's where this arrow is pointing. It's pointing all the way down to those teensy numbers. And it can't equal negative infinity, so I'm going to put a round parenthesis, comma, then the number 30 with a square bracket, because it could equal the number 30. Alright, let's go on to the back side. On the back side, I wanted to answer these questions. I think I'm going to answer question 9. Yeah, I'm going to answer question 9, and then I'm going to let you do your work. Again, this will work just like the box of doom. The only difference is if we are ever going to multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, we need to flip the direction of the sign. So question 9. X is being multiplied by 8 and subtracted by 7. So I'm going to do the opposite steps backwards. So I'm going to go ahead and add 7 to both sides. So 24 is less than 8x. And then I'm going to divide both sides by 8. I'm dividing by a positive number, so there's no need to switch the sign. And we have 3 is less than x. So my inequality is 3 is less than x. Now, some people really like x on the other side. That's totally fine. We can switch these two numbers as long as we also switch that sign in the middle. Because if 3 is less than x, if we're saying that 3 is a smaller number than x, then that would mean that we know that x is bigger than 3. Okay, so again, I can switch all those numbers around, but my alligator mouth still needs to be eating x because it's the bigger number. So I would have taken either answer there. X is greater than 3, or that 3 is less than x. Doesn't change what our number line is going to look like. We're still going to have a 0. I don't know, let's put the 3 right there. Circle the 3. I'm not coloring it in because x can't equal 3. And if 3 is smaller than x, that means that x is any number bigger than 3. So it's going to go in that direction. And then for my interval, I know that 3 is the smallest number x could be. It can't equal 3, so I'm going to use the round parenthesis. And that x is going to go all the way up to infinity. And I'll use a parenthesis around infinity because we always do. Alright? So I'll let you work. Let me give you a quick hint on number 10 because you were valiant enough to come watch this video. It's always easier for me when I see like 11 minus x thirds. It's kind of confusing. I'm going to put a plus sign and make the negative down with the 3. So have 29 is greater than 11 plus x over negative 3. That way when you go set up your box of doom, the closest thing to x is it's being divided by negative 3 and added by 11. So when you go do your opposite stuff backwards, those things are going to do opposite. And don't forget, if you multiply by negative 3, you've got to switch your sign. Alright, there was your reward for watching this video. Good luck on the rest of the questions. I'm anxious to see how you do, and I will see you later.